And we're live! Oops, my camera's turned around. Let me turn her back. Gotta be able to see myself in the camera. Because I imagine that I'm looking at you. So, welcome to RockSim Live. I'm Tim Van Milligan. This is where we talk about RockSim, RockSim Pro, and the launch visualizer. And if you're here for the first time, welcome. If you are a regular, welcome back. We are live, so I do have the chat going on, and I got an extra monitor over here where I can watch the chat going. So if you want to be recognized, go ahead and say hello and type in where you're watching from. Love to recognize you. So far, we got a bunch of people here. We got Guppy Guy from Boise, Curtis Howe from Portland, Michigan, and Chris's Rocketry and more. I think he's from Arizona, if I recall. Okay, so this is where we talk about RockSim. So I need your questions because I don't have any schedule. I'm here to talk about what you want to talk about. Last week I was off. I was visiting my daughter in Texas. She had a diving competition and she did okay. Wasn't her best, wasn't her worst. And she didn't hurt herself, so that was good. And she's nice and healthy. Normally during the school year, you know, the flu bug goes around everywhere. And it never fails. Whenever we go down and see her, she's always sick. But this time she was not sick, which was so good to see. So we were in Texas, in Dallas and Denton. And yeah, it was a long drive. We drove down on Thursday night, and the competition was Friday, probably right when we were doing RockSim, or we should have been doing RockSim Live. And then we drove back on Sunday morning, 11-hour drive. So it was a long day. And I get to do it again later this month. Okay. No questions yet. So let me show you my screen and we'll show you some of the normal stuff. So if you're brand new to RockSim, you get it here at Apogee Rockets. ApogeeRockets.com is our URL. Our company name is Apogee Components. And if you see this scrolling banner bar right here, there's a link right here to RockSim version 11 where you can purchase it for $50, and it's a one-time purchase as long as we're able to support it. And then down here you can download a free 30-day demo to try it out for yourself. So that's a pretty good bargain. So if you want to learn more about the software, come up here to How-To and Guides, click on that, then come down here to Software, and here's our base camp for all the things that are software related. So here's, again, that free trial where you can purchase RockSim 11. What is RockSim 11? And I'll open that in a new tab. And then features, I'll open that in a new tab. Version history, I'm going to open that in a new tab because I'm interested in it. The reason I'm interested in it is because we've got a new version of RockSim Pro coming out, and I want to see what I got to change on the website. So here is information about RockSim, and there's a lot of information, so I created a little menu here on the top. You can see some screenshots here. You can, one of the cool things is this one right here, the ejection charge calculator, where you can just drag a bar and it will tell you exactly how much black powder you're going to need for your ejection charge, which is a really cool feature. So this kind of gives you an overlay of some of the features that are in RockSim and RockSim Pro. If we go here, this is kind of like a listing of features. This is out of date because we've added so many more new features. You can see I'm just scrolling through and scrolling through of all the different things that you can do with RockSim. And then here is all the things. So this, the last one we did was version 4.2.3 F2. And yeah, we've got a lot of new features since then, so I need to update this page. We're getting ready to release RockSim Pro version 4.3.0. So that's kind of like the next major revision. And it's going to have a lot of new features in it. And I've showed you some of those features here in the past episodes. But the newest feature that's going to be is we're going to try to make it a demo where you can come to our website, and if you place a purchase on our website for $30, we're going to give you a free 30-day trial. And after 30 days, if you want to extend it, just come back to our website, place another order of rocketry items, stuff you're going to get anyway. I know you're going to buy it anyway, so you might as well get it from us. And then when you do, you get another 30 days of RockSim Pro. So essentially, it's free. And that's the big feature, essentially free, because you're going to be buying stuff anyway. So that's what we're getting ready to release, and it's pretty close. I'm going to try to use that today, and so you'll see, how it's going to work. But it will have advertisements in it, but they're short and they're not too bad. And so what I've been doing this last week is starting to create the ads to go into it. And if you own a rocket company and you want an ad to display, you can come talk to me. I'll take your money. I can't guarantee that you're going to make any money with advertising. I never make any money with advertising. Every time I try to place an ad with a paid ad, it's just like putting my money down the toilet. So Apogee relies on word of mouth. Customers like you telling your friends, where's the best place to get rocketry stuff? Apogee. So I really appreciate the word of mouth and recommending us to your friends. Basically, that's all we got. And we try to make it so that we are referable to others. So we're going to, we treat you right, and your friends, we're going to treat them right too. So you have no qualms about recommending us. We have the best service in the industry. We have the same day shipping guarantee. So if your order comes in by 2 o'clock Mountain Time, we're going to get it out the same day. Now there's some, exceptions to that rule. One of them is hazmat motors, because there's a lot of paperwork involved in sending out hazmat motors. So we can't guarantee we're going to get them out the same day. Most of the time we do, but we don't guarantee it. And then school purchase orders, because schools don't order on the website. And because they don't order on the website, it just adds an extra layer of administration and a lot of extra stuff that we have to go through, and it just slows things down. So if you order on the website by 2 o'clock, we can get it out the same day. And so we've already passed our deadline for today. So anything that comes in, after 2 o'clock will go out on Monday. And it's pretty much guaranteed. And if we don't meet our guarantee, we give you half off on shipping. That doesn't include hazmat fees. Hazmat fees is different. That's different from the shipping cost. But we don't guarantee hazmat. So that's just one of the differences that Apogee has compared to everybody else. And we also have the RockSim, which is different. We rely on it for our own rockets. And we built it for ourselves, and we allow other people to use it because it's so cool. Let's see what else here. If you go to how to and guides, go down to software, and you come here to, there's tutorials here. And one of the other things that I was making is a new video tutorials for RockSim Pro because if it's essentially free, we think that most people are going to give it a try. And so, you know, what's different in RockSim Pro versus regular RockSim? And there's not, oh, there's a lot of differences, but using it is pretty much the same. There's the RockSim Live training is what we're doing today. These are the archives here. You know, you can see what topics we talked about. And if you'd like to replay them, we have links to the YouTube videos. You just click on the timestamps and it will take you directly to that topic that we're talking about. Okay, what else we got going on? I guess we got a couple of questions here, or a couple of people saying hello. Ron's Rockets from Hawaii says aloha. Hello, Ron. Fat Bank from Texas is here. Purple Haze, he says he's David from Davidson, Michigan here, and he's smoking some corned beef. Wow, sounds good. Making me hungry. And Carlos K is here, and he says, what's the most innovative rocket you saw in Serbia? Built it in RockSim. The rockets that I've seen in Serbia, there was a Chinese rocket that was just gorgeous, and I talked about it in my newsletter. So you go to How To and Guides, come down to PicoFlight newsletter. Yeah, no, it was actually a video. It was video. It was this one right here, video number 444. And I won't play the video, but the Chinese had a rocket that was similar to what I make. But they had access to some beautiful carbon fiber spread toe. So carbon fiber is black, tiny hair-like things that are, when they put them all in a bundle, it's called a toe. And a spread toe means that they've taken that bundle and they flattened it, and then they spread it out as wide as they can. And this stuff was absolutely beautiful. I don't know how wide it was, but it was really nice. The advantage of it had so much spread toe in it. It was absolutely beautiful. But it was like, in my opinion, it was overbuilt. And when you overbuilt it, basically you're adding weight. So their rockets were heavier than mine, but they were stronger because they had a lot of more spread toe in it. I make my own spread toe, and I got a newsletter article about how to do it. Come down here to PicoFlight newsletter, go to all newsletters. Let's see if I can find it. Toe. I'm looking on this page. Eiffel Tower. Okay, handling delicate spread toe. If you click on that, so this is what a spool of regular toe looks like. Now this is not spread. This is flattened toe, but it's not spread toe. So you take that bundle and you want to spread it out like this. And you can see it's very, very fine. It's this bundle of fibers right here. That's a bundle of 12,000 fibers. And that's just like way too much. So I split it in half and use half of that on each side of the rocket. So then it's called 6K, which is 6,000 individual fibers. And then I spread it. And you can see this is what my spread toe looks like. You can see there's a lot of gaps between the individual fibers. Where the Chinese spread toe, it was solid black, which means that it had a lot more fibers in there, and they were uniformly spread. And that was the most beautiful thing, most innovative thing that I saw there in Serbia. Yeah, so that's Peak of Flight newsletter number 577. And in 478 is, yeah, it shows you how to spread the fibers. And basically you take the toe and you float it on a bed of alcohol. So I just take alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and just pour it on the table, and it floats because it's so light. And then once it floats, you can kind of, if you tap on it, the fibers want to spread out, and so you can spread it out. I was going to say easily, but it's kind of like they want to tangle. They're so fine, and this is what it looks like when they start tangling. It just looks like a bow tie. And at that point, you just kind of just throw it away and start over. Carbon fiber toe is cheap enough where you can throw it away. It's still more expensive than fiberglass, but you don't need to use nearly as much. So the cost to use it is actually not bad. A rocket tube probably contains like 50 cents worth of material. Yeah. Okay, Rick DeFoss's question. Can you discuss using RockSim to choose motors for a two-stage flight, maybe even an air start? Okay, that's a really good question. Okay, so here, I'm in RockSim Pro, but RockSim is the same. Let me open up a two-stage design. Let's see, what do we got? This is not my normal computer, so I don't know if I've got like the Invicta here, or maybe the Lock Terrier Sandhawk. So this is a two-stage rocket. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to click out and save my changes. No. Okay, so we see a two-stage rocket. We got, you can see right here, there's a two-stage. If I select the one, now it just shows me the upper stage. And then here is the lower stage. So if this was a single stage rocket, let me go back and open up a single stage rocket. I want something smaller. And the reason is I don't want as many motors. No, we're going to come back to that. Okay, so here's a single stage rocket. This one's called the Slow-Mo. And if it's choosing rockets for single stage is pretty easy. It's just basically 3 clicks of your mouse and you're going to get a list of all the motors that fit. So I can go here and then I can go, okay, so so that was click number 1 is to open this screen. And then click number 2 is to click on recommend motors. And then click number 3 is use the recommended conditions. I just got a message here. It says this computer has using hand gestures. That's just interesting. Okay, so when I clicked on recommended motors, you can see all these motors right here that it ran simulations on. And there are some motors that are safe and are recommended, and a whole bunch of others that are not recommended. And this chart here doesn't tell me which of the motors are. Oh, here they are. My chart, if you want to reorganize the columns, just grab a column header and move it around. Okay, so And then if you want to sort by recommended, come here and just click on this column header and it will resort. And so right now it's sorting, the not recommended ones are first. And if I click it again, the recommended ones are here on the top. So you can see for a single stage, it's just 3 clicks of your mouse and you can get a huge list of motors that are recommended or not recommended. And for some reason, for this particular rocket, it's seeing that the liftoff speed is unsafe on a lot of motors, which tells me, because I know that this rocket can fly on, you know, a B-14, it tells me that there's something else wrong, and it's typically the launch rod length. It's just not long enough to get up to a sufficient speed. Okay, so that's for a single stage. Well, when you go on a 2-stage, it's different. And the reason we don't, and I'll show you here. Let me go back to that lock kit. Interior sand off. And click no. Okay, so if I go up here, so these are old simulations right here. But if I go here, you'll see that the recommended motor button is grayed out. I can't select it. And we grayed it out on purpose. And the reason is because there's too many permutations of motors that could work. And there could be millions on some designs, especially multiple stage rockets and then clusters. There's just too many to run. And so we cut it off. So you got to do it manually when you're doing a 2-stage rocket. Now, there's a way to cheat in order to use the button, but you're going to have to do it in a couple of stages. Okay, so basically it only works for a single motor in a rocket. So how can I make this rocket a single stage motor? A single motor rocket. And let me try it. So we're going to go to the rocket design components. So this is all the parts that are in the rocket. And I'm looking for the motor mount tube on the upper stage. So let me go to a 2D view. And this tube right here, and if I click on it, it will highlight it up here. So that's the tube that I want to edit. So I'm going to go to this tube and I'm going to uncheck it. So now it should only think that there's one motor in here. And so if we go to recommended motors, it's not letting me. It says in order to run simulations, at least one body tube in each rocket stage needs to be designated as a motor mount. Do you wish to designate a no motor mount tube now? And I'm going to say no. And it's going to give me that same answer. So I didn't know if this was going to work or not, and it didn't work. And this is how we learn. So that tells me that I got to do a different way to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the parts on the booster and I'm going to add them to the upper stage and make it a single stage rocket. So at least I can run the booster stage by itself. So my technique here is I'm going to run all the booster stage motors first. So what motors can lift this rocket off the ground safely? Because that's the most important part. So once we're in the air and we're moving, now choosing the upper stage motors is actually pretty trivial. But we have to select all the booster motors first before we can do the upper stage motors. So I'm gonna try to select all the booster parts and move them up here. So I'm going to select that transition. I'm going to do a copy, and then I'm going to paste it to the sustainer tube. So I'm going to do paste. Okay, so let me zoom out here and see what happens. So now we have 2 transitions, which is good. Okay, then now, so I moved this one up here, but I still left it here. I'm going to take this one now. Now this one has all these parts attached to it. So when I copy it, it's going to copy all those parts as well. So to copy it, I can either go to edit menu, copy, or I can right click on that booster tube and it brings up this little menu right here. And then I'm going to say copy. And then I'm going to come up here and then do a right click and paste. So it pasted it there. And it really didn't like that fin. That fin it did not like. Let me open that up. See what happened there. That is weird. This is the shape it should be. Let me chord length 2.5. Okay, so basically if I just change that to, it was 2.4 before. Okay, click OK. So basically now I got a single stage, and my single stage is all these parts right here from the tip all the way down to here, and then my lower stage is here. So now I'm going to get rid of the booster stage. So I'm going to go here to the Rocket Design Attributes tab, and to get rid of them, I'm just going to change the number of stages. So right now it's a 2-stage rocket. I'm going to take it to a single stage rocket. And it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to say yes. So now it's a single stage rocket, even though it looks like 2 stages. So I'm going to save this as a different file name. So I'm going to do a save as Terrier Sandhawk single stage. And I'm going to put it on my desktop so I can know I can find it. Hit save. Okay, so now it put it on my desktop just in case anything bad happens. Okay, so if I go back to the Rocket Design Attributes, and if I select this body tube here, remember this was the motor mount for the upper stage. I want to make sure that this is not selected, and that's good. Body tube, in fact, I'm going to change the name. Upper stage motor. I recommend changing the names to what they actually are, because body tube, body tube, body tube makes them really hard to find. Upper stage motor tube. And click OK. Okay, so now we should only have one motor in here. So if I go prepare for launch, see, I only have one motor tube that the RockSim is seeing. So now you'll see that the recommended motor button is activated. So I'm going to click on that. My launch guide length, this is a high power rocket, so I'm going to make it an 8-foot long rail and leave everything else. And then instead of using recommended conditions, I'm going to use my values, which are actually I don't know what they are. I'm going to use recommended conditions. Okay, so it's running, and here's the thing. There's 206 38mm diameter motors in RockSim, and it's going to run all of them. It's about halfway already, so it's burning through them pretty quick. But imagine if you had 1 million motors to do. So what it found of those 200 and some motors, it liked 199 of them. So at 199, now it's finding out the optimal delay for each one. But really, all I care about is, will the rocket get off the pad successfully? So this one is taking a little bit longer to do. Let me see if we got any more questions. Mark Sell had a good comment. He says, don't forget to add the motor weight in the upper stage motor tube. That will be there. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because we're running this simulation and it's missing the weight of the motor in the upper stage, because that would be there. Okay, I'm going to cancel out of this but it did run a whole bunch of simulations. I didn't get the full list, but I got enough. So look at this big long motor in here. Wow, that's got to be like a 6XL grain. But if I do load engines there, okay, so here's a G, load engines, here's an H, so that's kind of more normal. So this H178 dark matter, it says that this liftoff speed, and this is what I'm really keying on, is it leaving the pad safely? Is it getting it up to speed? And so in a two-stage rocket, I would kind of, it's going to say RockSim recommended here, but you want to key in on the liftoff speed column. Is it safe or unsafe? So I saw one here. I just scrolled past it right here. This one is unsafe. It didn't like the I-49. Basically, it's saying that this rocket is not, an I-49 is such a low thrust motor, it's not safely lifting this heavy rocket off the pad. And I don't even have the weight of the upper stage motor in here. So basically, any motor that has liftoff speed that says safe is a candidate for choosing motors for this rocket. So let's pick one. So this I-180. So remember that one in your head. So okay, let's just imagine that I can get an I-180. It's available. Maybe the vendor that brings the motors to the launch site has an I-80 motor that day. So I want to save this list. And then, I'm going to take this list for the booster stage, and I'm going to go to that vendor, and I'm going to see what he has available. Because when you're selecting motors, that is actually the hardest thing, is the motor available? So you take this list, and I think I'm just trying to think. I can click. I can do a right click on here and say show only recommended motors, and that will eliminate half of them. And then I think I can go to File, Print, and I don't need those. I don't need those. Don't need those. I need simulation information. All simulations, selected simulations. Let me see. Let me cancel this. I'm going to select all these simulations. So now I'm only showing recommended motors. Select that. Go to print. Don't need a parts list. I just need simulation information. Only the selected ones. Oh, the recommend motor table. Okay, so that's what you want. You want this one, recommended motor table. And I'm going to print it to a PDF. So I'm going to click here, print to PDF, then click OK. So that print to PDF was under additional settings. So there's print selections and additional settings. And then I'm going to click OK. And it's doing something. And I'm going to say print. And now it's telling me, where did it put it? I think it put it in my RockSim applications, in the RockSim data. No. Not backgrounds, design, data import, media. Nope. Let's see. Oh, today, DS RockSim Assembly. I'm not sure what that is. Why that's there, because that was just created, well, that was created a while ago. Okay, I'll do the alternate way. So go print again. This time, instead of printing to a PDF, click OK. And I think here, there's this menu. I can say save as PDF. Okay, so now I can say, let's put it on the desktop. And we'll call it recommend motors. Hit save. Okay, so that did put it on my desktop. So I'll open it from my desktop. All right, so here is that list of recommended motors. So I'm going to take this list, and what the heck is going on there? I'm looking for that I-180. So here's the I-180, and it is recommended. So I'm going to take this list, print it out, and that tells me that I can go look through the stash of motors that the vendor has. That's why I wanted to print it out. So now we got all the motors that we can use in the booster stage. Now we got to do the same thing for the upper stage. So I'm going to save this again. I'm going to do a file save as, and this time I'm just going to call it upper stage, and then save. First of all, we need to throw some weight in there just so that we know what this is actually going to weigh. So we need to find the weight. Let's say it's going to be another H motor in the top. So I'm going to go back to the Apogee website because I need to find the weight of an H motor, H100. I just want to get some kind of representative weight. Okay, so this is an H100. It's a single-use disposable motor. And it's a white lightning propellant. That's what the W stands for. If I click on this, I can get total mass right here, 261 grams. So when I go back here to RockSim, I need to put weight right here at 261 grams. So to do that, come here to Rocket Design Components. I'm going to hit Mass Object. Oops, I want to cancel that. Cancel. Because I'm putting it in the wrong spot. I want to put it here. So I got to select that upper stage motor tube. Now hit it. And click Cancel. And I'm just going to say motor mass. And the mass is 261 grams. And so right now let me make this screen bigger for you. Right now that motor mass is right here. We need to put it like right here. So I'm going to change the location. Just take the slider bar and just slide it back to somewhere like right in the middle of the tube, like that amount of space. And then click OK. So now we have a motor in there. And we want to run a new simulation with the I-180 because this is going to be our motor. So now we need to know what I'm looking for is well, I don't need this. Anyway, let me rerun it with the I-180. Choose engine. And I'm looking for the I-180. And there it is. And the booster motor, right now I'm just going to choose 14 seconds. I always choose the longest delay, what's available. And if it doesn't have one, if it's a plugged motor, you can type in a number in here. And I'm going to click OK. And now I want to make sure that everything is no events. It has two parachutes in it, one for the booster stage, one for the upper stage. This one is the booster stage, so I'm going to say no event on that. Starting state, this is 8 foot long. and it's pointed at a 3.87 degree angle, and it's kind of pointed towards the west, a little bit south of straight west. And if we do a flight profile, I'm going to wait for 4 seconds here to close this. This is what we're testing right now, is to make sure that the ads pop up in this new version that's going to be essentially free. So now it's running the simulation. So you got to wait 4 seconds. Okay, so here's the rocket sitting on the pad. I'm just kind of backing out so you can kind of get the lay of the land. So the rocket is like right here in the middle, and north is the black arrow. So that's why I spun it around so that north is up. And you can see, you know, here's my field, and it's surrounded by mountains and trees and things like that. And I can tilt this a little bit. And then when we launch, we can see where it's taken off. You can see right now only the booster stage motor worked because we don't have anything in the upper stage. So at this point, you know, all we wanted to know on the booster is, can I get it off the pad successfully? And yes, we can. And the rocket landed way over there. Okay, so time to burnout was 1.96 seconds. And remember, that's about 2 seconds to burn out. Now, so I got my booster motor. Now we can go back to our original design. See, with the upper, let me go do the upper stage. So what I wanted to do, and I think I'll do it, is I'm going to delete all the components on the booster stage. So this is going to be the upper stage rocket. So I'm going to go back to design components, and I'm going to find from this transition down, I'm going to delete. So I'm going to delete that component there, which is this tube and everything associated with it. Delete, and it's going to ask me, do I want to delete? I'm going to say yes. So now I'm going to delete this transition. And this time I did a right click, and I'll just hit delete there and say yes. Okay, so now on this upper stage and upper stage motor tube, now I need to check this, that this is a motor mount, and this is also 38, which means there's going to be another 200 different motors that's going to fit into it. And we'll click OK. And if I do recommended motors, you can see that the button is there. This time, it's not letting me choose anything smaller than 4-foot launch rod. That's okay. I'll just use recommended conditions. And now it's going to go through all 206. But this is not the final answer yet. This is just going to tell us, is if we launch the upper stage by itself, will it work? And the answer is probably for most motors. The question is, you know, almost any motor is going to work in the upper stage. This is why it's so hard to choose motors, is because there's just so many different combinations. Like right now, it liked 190 motors again, and it's going to go chugging through them all to find the optimal delay. And I'm gonna cancel out of this. We should have enough motors right now. We got 40 motors, so it went through 40 motors, and it's just listed them right there. And like you can see that pretty much all of them that it went through here are recommended. So again, I got another list of motors that I can print out and take to my local motor vendor to buy motors. So now, and again, it always puts the largest one in there. Load engines. Okay, so I got an I-180 in the booster. That's what I'm going to use. Now, what do we use for the upper stage? all of these are going to work. An I-80 paired with any of these motors is going to work just fine. Now, the next question is, maybe we've got an altitude waiver limit. So maybe our waiver is 12,000 feet. So this is where it gets really complicated, because now we got an I-180 in the bottom. What's this, the biggest motor we can use in the upper stage to prevent us from breaking the waiver? So you understand that? So we're allowed to go to 12,000 feet. That's what the FAA gave us for our flight waiver. With the booster motor plus an upper stage motor, are we going to break that? Because if you break your waiver, you're in big trouble from the FAA. So we don't want to do that. We want to stay below 12,000 feet, but we want to get as close as we can. So how do we get there? Okay, so now the question is changed. And so I want to go back. So I'm gonna what I need, and this you can do in RockSim Pro, but you can't do it. So you can't do it in RockSim, regular RockSim, which is one of the advantages of RockSim Pro. So I'm going to open up that last one that I had created, the desktop. Okay, so we have two motors. Okay, so here's the single stage. I'm going to open that. Do I want to save my changes? No. So basically, I'm not saving this because the upper stage by itself, almost any motor is going to work. And that's typical of all two-stage rockets, is your upper stage is going to work because if your booster motor can get it up in the air, it's going to fly okay. That's just a general rule of thumb. I don't think I've ever seen a case where, the upper stage, even if you put in, a quarter-A motor, it's still going to be, it can still be a safe and successful flight. So I'm not going to save this. Okay, so now we're back to a single stage rocket. So if I go 2 stages, nothing changes. I got a single stage rocket with just a booster motor. And I do not have the mass object here for the upper stage. So let me put that in there, back in there. Booster motor mount tube. Where is this tube? Right there. Motor mount. And I'll click OK. But I wanted to highlight it so that I can add a mass object in. And remember, we were adding, what did we say? 261 grams. So I'm going to cancel out of this, add 261 grams. I'm going to change the location. So this blue circle here, my mass, I'm moving it to the back end of the motor and click OK. Now I'm going to go and I should have saved that other one. I'm going to go and add the motor in here, the I-180, and so this time what I want to find out is at what speed the upper stage leaves, or I want to find the speed at which the upper stage leaves the booster stage, because that's going to determine how high the upper stage goes. Because the upper stage, it's not like you're going to add 5,000 feet and another 10,000, another 5,000 feet. Because the upper stage has some inertia and some momentum, when it lights, it's going to go a lot higher than if it launched just from static 0 miles per hour on the ground. So I need to know the starting velocity of the upper stage. And then I'm going to take that starting velocity and I'm going to plug it back into the upper stage and then rerun my simulations. Okay, so H1 or I-180, 14-second delay. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to launch it. Okay, so here is the I-180. Time to burnout is just about 2 seconds. So I need to know what speed it was at burnout and what altitude it was at burnout. Those are the two things that I need to know. So let me see if I double click on this. It should bring up the detailed flight report. Let's see if the information is in here, because if it's in here, then that's going to be nice. I can get the information another way, but if it's in here, then it would be so much better. Okay, so time to burnout was that 1.962 seconds. It doesn't tell me. What I was looking for was velocity at burnout and altitude at burnout. I got altitude at deployment, but I want altitude at burnout. So I'm going to have to go to the graphs. So here's the graphs, and we can find that information on the graphs. So what I want to plot is time on the x-axis, and I want altitude above ground level, and I want to know the relative velocity. Absolute velocity in RockSim Pro includes the speed from the rotation of the Earth, and I don't need to know the speed of the rotation of the Earth. And this other one I just want to clear out. So this is going to plot altitude and velocity. And I'm going to stop the graph at time of 1.96 seconds, 1.96. And then hit tab and plot graph. Okay, so here is my graph. So at the end of 1.96 seconds is when the engine stopped burning. And it's like right here, and it's not showing me. What happened? I'll go back to preferences. What happened? Let's go maybe 2.5 seconds. Plot the graph. Okay. So I need to know this velocity at burnout and the altitude at burnout. And I've got a piece of paper right here in my hand, and I'm going to write down these values. So I'm going to bring this graph all the way over here. So the orange line is the altitude. So we got 600. This is 700 feet. We'll call it 700 feet. Okay, so when the motor burns out on the booster stage with an I-180, it's already at 700 feet, and it's moving at a velocity. So here we got to bring the velocity over here. These are 10. So that's 310, 320. So 320 miles per hour is our velocity at booster burnout. Okay, so now click OK. Now I need to go back to my other design. So let me go back to the other one, which was on the desktop. I don't think I saved it, so I think I need to make a tweak. A single stage. We want the upper stage alone. Save my changes, yes. Okay, so I had deleted this, and now I'm going to have to delete it again. So booster, delete, yes. Transition, delete, yes. Okay, so now I just got the upper stage by itself. And this is what we're going to do here. So what we're going to do is going to go prepare for launch. Oh, I didn't designate that as a motor tube, so I'm going to say yes. I'm going to designate payload tube. what does this say? Did I change the name? Upper stage motor tube. So the upper stage motor tube is my motor mount. And it sees it as a 38 millimeter motor. Okay, so now in RockSim Pro, this is why we needed to know the starting velocity. So our starting velocity, we said it was 320 miles per hour. And our starting altitude, like there's no altitude here, but the altitude is here under launch conditions. So remember that launch site that we launched from previously, its altitude was 1,148 feet above sea level. So now we're going to add 700 feet to that. So now my new starting altitude is 1,848 feet. So I'm just adding 700 feet to both the starting altitude. Oh, my landing zone altitude stays the same because it's still the landing zone where it's going to land is at 1,148 feet. And I'm going to click OK for right now, and I'm going to go back here. Just wanted to make sure that those got saved into here, which they did. So now under engine selections, I'm going to do, now I can do recommend motor. And then I'm going to say use my conditions. So my conditions were a starting velocity of 320 miles per hour, and it's starting already at 700 feet above ground level, which is 1,800 feet above sea level. Let's hope this works. Okay, so it's running the simulations. And all this is to find an upper stage motor that's not going to bust our waiver. Because we don't want to go, I don't know what, we could say 12,000 feet, but, once we see the list, we'll figure out, what motor is going to get us close to that altitude. So it's running the simulations. David H. says, is there a way to show a boat tail using a tapered tube to taper over a long distance, 6 inches? Is there a way to print the tube cut lines for the taper? Is there a way to show a boat tail using a tapered tube to taper over a long distance? So a boat tail would be a cone, not a tube. And can we make a long cone? Yes. Can we print that out? Yes. Okay, so it's going to take a while to get almost these 200 motors, so I'm just going to cancel for right now. And okay, so here is a list. Again, it always shows this big long motor in here. Just load engine. We're going to load the G69. Okay, so let's cancel out of that. Why did I open that? I wanted to run the simulation. Interesting. If you click on these ads, it'll take you to the page. It should have took me to that Saturn one. It didn't take me to the right page. It takes you to our website, but it leaves it over here, so you're not losing anything. So you can just close, and then it's just going to do what it's supposed to do. Okay, so let's hope this worked. And it didn't. How do I know it didn't work? Because my rocket's on the ground when it should be 700 feet in the air. So that's a bug in RockSim. Setting the altitude doesn't, when you use my conditions, set altitude, my conditions. have to get that fixed, but it might take a while. Shoot, everything I just did for the last 20 minutes didn't work. Because this is, right now we're running that G69, just lifting off straight from the ground. So yeah, it went up. Its peak altitude was right there, 2,180. And that's actually not even correct, I don't think. Yeah, that's probably correct. It's coasting. Anyway, yeah. What I wanted, what I wanted to do was to start all these simulations at 700 feet above the launch field when the rocket's moving at 320 miles an hour. So let me load this H100. I'll show you. See the recommended. What I was saying, what's not working is the recommended motor button is not working with the recommended conditions, because my conditions have the launch at 1,800 feet above sea level, which is 700 feet above ground level. That's not what's working. So the recommended motor button is not working correctly. But you can still run this simulation. So we can now run the H100-10 and do a flight profile here. And let me see if this is going to open up in the right window. It should open to the Zephyr. It didn't open to the Zephyr. Okay. Okay. So this time it did work. So now this time my rocket is 700 feet in the air. Like I'm looking over the ground and I'm not finding it. So hit the home button. So there's my rocket. And you can see that rocket is floating up in the air. And right now it's 700 feet above sea level, or above ground level. And then if we run the simulation, it takes off and it goes really high. And it should have also started at 320 miles an hour. And so now it's got to come all the way back down to the ground. So it's now on the ground. And if we back out, you can see it went a really, really far distance. You can see it started here in the air, and then it went high, but it had to come back down, all the way back down to the ground over here. So that's why your starting altitude and your landing zone altitude are two different numbers, because you have that option of launching the rocket. Let me do it this way. Let me zoom out. I want to just see how fast this rocket, see if I can tell how fast it's going. Actually, let me go here. This button right here is my flight data. So, okay, so right now the rocket's in the middle of the air, 700 feet up in the air. And if you look right here, its relative velocity is 320 miles an hour. So it's already moving at 320 miles an hour even before I've lit the motor, because this is where the booster motor is going to kick it off. And at that speed, yeah, so, and then if you launch it, you can watch your velocity go crazy high. Now it's slowing down, and you can see our altitude above ground level is right here, 5,000 feet. So we're not busting the waiver of 12,000 feet, whatever it might be, with this particular combination. What I was trying to do was to do a quick and dirty way. So now if you really want to run the whole simulation together, so remember this number, I'll write it down, maximum altitude 5446.92 feet. And that was with an I-180 to an H-100. I'm writing this down on a piece of paper so I don't forget. So now I'm going to open up the original lock file. So if I go open recent, I should see a whole bunch of lock precision ones. And I want the one that's in this folder right here. I'm going to save that. Okay, so now we're going to go prepare for launch, choose an engine. Okay, so remember we're looking for the I-180. So you can use the search code right here. So there's my I-180 and my ejection delay. I'm going to say 1.96 seconds. So the ejection delay controls when the upper stage starts its sequence. So that's why I chose it at 1.96. And I'm going to click OK there. And then for my upper stage, I want the H100. And this one, I want the longest delay. And I'll click OK. So now I've got the booster stage is the I-180, and this is the H100. Flight events, my parachute, this is the booster stage. And I'm going to say deploy at a time after stage separation of, we'll give it another 6 seconds to coast. And then actually, and then this parachute will just deploy it at maximum injection delay. So engine, the booster stage, ejection delay. Why does this say 0? So at H, okay, so that's right. H100, 0, and the I-180, 0, and the H100, 10. I'm just making sure I got this correct. So the I-180 is going to burn out at 1.96 seconds. So we need the ejection delay set at 0. If we did delayed staging, that's a different story. Did he ask for delayed staging? Maybe even an air start. So he did ask for air starts. So, but air starts we can do right here. I'll show you that in just a second. So flight events, deploy maximum ejection, starting state. So this time I want to make sure my starting velocity is 0. And my launch conditions, I have to change this back to ground level, which was 1,148 feet. And now when I run the flight profile, hit the close button and it should run the simulation. Okay, so why is my altitude so low? We should be well over 5,496 feet. This is what I wrote down on my sheet of paper. Altitude at deployment. Why am I getting the spinny ball? Spinny ball usually means I'm not seeing the screen. Is it behind here? Yeah, there it is. It got behind. Okay. Hopefully this is not too big. Okay, so it says 24 seconds. I want to see. It didn't ignite the upper stage. So why didn't it ignite the upper stage? It should have ignited the upper stage. That's why it didn't go so high. Let's check that out. Flight events, parachute, starting state. This is going long. This is one question. Try to figure out what went wrong. Okay, so I'm going to go here to preferences. And I want to go to uncheck use simplified flight events, see if it's messed up there. So flight events. Okay, so now max ejection delay. See, that's what was going on. So we want staging to occur at 1.96 seconds. So we need time greater than 1.96. Hit the tab. So that's going to be the upper stage. Now let's run the same simulation. I think it should work this time. Crossing my fingers. Okay, so this time it tells me my maximum altitude is 2,097. So it did do something different. Okay, so it did stage, but it ejected the parachute almost like right away. Why'd that happen? This is why it's so important to actually look at the flight of the rocket, because if you don't look at it, you would take these numbers as gospel when they're actually not. So here's the rocket taking off. There's the upper stage. Did you see that? It just like slowed down as soon as, you know, it was still moving at Mach 5 for 320 miles an hour when that upper, well, it's probably worse than that. Just kind of watch the speed of this rocket as it's taking off. So it's going faster and faster and faster, and then it put on the brakes. It should have coasted a lot further. So that tells me that something's wrong. And I got to figure out what's going on. Cancel that. I wanted to see this. Flight events. The parachute, and this is the upper stage. Maximum ejection delay, and I know my ejection delay is 10 seconds. So let's say it's deployed at Apogee, and it's going to calculate that. Let's do that. And flight profile. Let's watch that again. There's an ad to subscribe to our newsletter. Okay, I always got to make my screen bigger. Okay, so this time, if I look over here, altitude at deployment, 5,321 feet. So previously I wrote down 5,446 feet. So now now why is there a difference? This time I think it's working. So the rocket's taking off, it's coasting upwards, and that when it gets to Apogee, that was weird. Okay, so there's the Apogee, and now it's going to come down, and it's going to land way out there. Okay, so you can kind of see the trajectory here. You got the booster stage is the yellow, and the green is the upper stage. And I want to see it. Okay, so I'm going to rerun that. Something looks like, so it's burning. Okay, so it staged correctly, and now it's coasting. I just thought it looked like it was doing something weird, like it didn't ignite at the right time, but that was correct. Okay, so 5,314 feet. Okay, so that worked. Okay, so now the question is, why is this number here different from the one that I wrote down when we set the rocket to stage at 700 feet above ground level. So if we go to the graphs, take a look at that, plot that graph. That's not right. We need to go at the end of the data. Plot the graph. Okay, so here is burnout of the upper stage. So yeah, it's not telling me anything. It's not showing me where my booster stage is burnout. Because this burnout is at almost 4 seconds. So I know my booster stage burned out like close to 2 seconds, like right there. And then the upper stage took off. So where my thumb is right there. Let's go back here. So this time it says my velocity right there where it changes that dog leg right there is at about 215, like around 216 miles an hour right there. And before, when we ran the simulation, we said it was 320 miles an hour. So that's the difference. That's why this one did not go as high, because when it staged, it was at a lower velocity, which makes sense. So why was the velocity at staging lower? And the only thing that I can think of is the mass was different. If you think you know, let me know. I'm going with mass. Rick DeFossis says, this is fantastic. I'm actually building the Lock Terrier Tomahawk, basically the exact setup. Mark Sell says, this is an entertaining discussion. Great question. It is. It's a hard question. And it would have worked a lot better if the recommended motors worked and it used my conditions. And by my conditions, I mean my starting velocity. Try inversing the polarity of the neutron flow. Oh, Ron, you're funny. Yeah. You use recommended, not my conditions, says Curtis Howe. Did I? Thought I used my conditions. I could try that again, or you can try it too. Like I said, this we're going to be releasing RockSim Pro as an essentially free program. So basically, you spend $30 buying something else, even like an H100. What's an H100 cost these days? $58. So if you buy one H100, you're going to get 30 days of RockSim Pro for free. Then you can run the simulations yourself and let me know. But it's not available quite yet. It's like really close. For one thing, I just showed you, I'm doing a beta test right now. And one of the things that I noticed is when I clicked on the ads, it should have took me to the right page. Like when I clicked on the subscribe to the newsletter, it should have took me to the newsletter, or when I clicked on one of the other ones. So that's got to be fixed. That did not work. But most everything else seems to be working, and I don't think we're going to get this recommended motor fixed. That's so obscure. But you can test it. You can test it for yourself. See if that works for you. Anyway, we will be back next week. We went 20 minutes long this time. We'll be back next week. Yeah, next week you will be here. My daughter is not diving next week. Next week, Saturday and Sunday is Chili Blaster. And that's the name of the launch that we have at our launch field here in Pueblo. It's a 2-day event. So on the 18th and 19th of October, that's a Saturday and Sunday, come on down if you got the available time for Chili Blaster. It's going to be great. Usually weather in October is awesome. It can get a little breezy in the afternoon, but typically it's still in the upper 60s, mid 70s in Pueblo. So it's really nice weather. You're not going to roast or anything like that. Yeah, so we'll be back. Thanks again for being here. If you have any RockSim questions, just go on our website, go to the contact form and put those in there. And I'm sorry I didn't get to the other question about making a boat tail. But remind me again next week. Maybe I can do that one next week. So I'll give you a countdown and we'll get out of here. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go out and launch something.